told your friend you're not okay.
Breaking the limit. Shifting the standard. Transcending anything the industry has ever defined. Today, Top K-pop presents one of the most monumental stories in modern music history, the story of an artist who didn't just shine, but redefined excellence itself. In 2026, the entertainment world once again faced an undeniable reality, a moment when achievement was no longer contested, but accepted as an undeniable truth. In an industry filled with big names, colossal achievements, and endless competition, only one name stood at the top with such elegance and absolute certainty: Jungkook. Not because he released the most songs, not because his exposure was rampant on every platform, and not because the sound of his fandom echoed everywhere. 2026 marked the point when professionals, from music critics to producers, from vocal coaches to world-class choreographers, stopped speaking in uncertain tones and finally uttered one sentence. Jungkook was the most complete artist of his generation, a standard no one could deny. But to understand the enormity of that recognition, we must go back to the beginning of a 15-year-old boy's journey into an industry that can break even an adult. Jungkook grew up on a stage bigger than himself, surrounded by older members, heavier burdens, and almost inhuman expectations. From an age when most teenagers are still learning how to navigate life, Jungkook was expected to perform flawlessly, move flawlessly, sing without wavering, and evolve without pause. The pressure he was under was never visible on the outside, but he felt it with every second of his debut journey. That was the point where many artists would have fallen apart, but Jungkook instead laid the foundation for himself. He didn't just practice hard, he decided to make practice his life's language. He developed a habit of obsession, not with fame, but with self-improvement. Every note was reanalyzed, every movement questioned, every breath measured with the precision of an elite athlete. His ability didn't develop from an overnight miracle, but from thousands of hours unseen, from a discipline that never slackened even when the world was already raving about him. Over the years, his voice changed, maturing in color, expanding in emotional range. His movements sharpened to precision. The stamina he built made him a performer who could rock the stage for hours without losing vocal quality. But what set him apart from thousands of other artists wasn't just his skill, it was his awareness. Jungkook observed himself more closely than anyone else. He rewatched his performances with the eyes of a critic, not a star. He improved on things the audience never even noticed. He strived, not for global recognition, but to surpass a version of himself that hadn't yet been achieved. And when BTS had become a global phenomenon, when popularity reached a peak that no one could surpass, Jungkook still practiced like a new trainee afraid of missing out. From the outside, it looked like dedication. From the inside, it was a standard of living he'd created for himself. Then came 2026, the year the industry decided to judge candidates not on popularity, but on pure ability. Evaluators looked for aspects that couldn't be faked: breath stability under demanding choreography, vocal control under the pressure of a live stage, precision in body rhythm, sensitivity to expression, genre adaptability, and consistency of quality from one era to the next. And when all the data was compiled, all the footage compared, all the analysis completed, one fact emerged starkly and powerfully: Jungkook didn't just win, he dominated every category without a hitch. What followed the announcement was unlike any other awards ceremony. There was no heated debate, no fandom uproar, no comparison articles trying to stir up controversy. Quite the opposite: silence. A silence that signaled total acceptance. Critics nodded respectfully. Producers praised unconditionally. Rivals ran out of excuses to deny it. For the first time, the public witnessed a decision so accurate, so true to reality, that there was no room for anyone to dispute it. But behind the seemingly glamorous title lurked an emotional burden that only those who have experienced relentless pressure can understand. The title of Most Talented isn't given for free. After that monumental recognition rocked the entertainment world, Jungkook's journey didn't end with applause or international headlines. Instead, the next chapter began where everyone thought he'd reached the highest limit possible for a performer. Because what happened after 2026 wasn't just a continuation of his career, but an evolution that even the experts hadn't expected to happen for someone already considered at the pinnacle of perfection. Because if 2026 was the year of recognition, then the next chapter was the year of proving that recognition wasn't the end, but rather the foundation for something much greater. Once the title of the Most Talented Artist of 2026 shook the world, the spotlight on Jungkook shifted completely. He was no longer seen as an idol competing in the pop market, he was seen as a global benchmark for technical performance. Many thought the new pressure would wear him down, making him cautious or even afraid to take risks. But as he had always done since his teens, Jungkook instead turned that pressure into renewed energy. Only then did the world realize that his achievements that year weren't the climax, but the warm-up. Every stage opportunity that followed that recognition further cemented his status. Practices previously conducted in private were now heard by the production team, their intensity unconcealable. Jungkook practiced his breathing techniques not just to maintain stability, but to create a more expressive live singing style without losing pitch. He explored new genres not simply as an experiment, but as a study of how his body responded to the rhythms of different cultures. Even professionals who had followed his career for years were amazed at how much room he still found for growth. Behind the scenes, the world's top producers began to use Jungkook as a benchmark in technical discussions. They noticed how he could sing as if he weren't choreographing, how he maintained emotional expression without sacrificing basic technique, and how his performance remained stable even when the stage was extremely physically demanding. Many new trainees at various agencies were even tasked with studying Jungkook's practice methods as learning modules. Jungkook, without ever being asked, had become a living curriculum. And what made it all the more remarkable was the fact that he remained oblivious to the industry placing him in this position. In his mind, he was simply someone constantly striving to be better than he was yesterday. But Jungkook's influence didn't stop at the technical side. In the years following that recognition, he began to influence the way the world viewed artistic performance more broadly. When he performed at global events, the focus was no longer solely on his voice, dancing, or visuals, but on the synergy he created from them all. He transformed the stage into a story space. Every movement felt meaningful, every note felt purposeful. Critics from around the world agreed that Jungkook had entered a new phase as a performer who not only delivered music but also delivered a complete emotional experience. This was the point where many said Jungkook was no longer simply transcending his generation, he was transcending the definition of an idol. And the more he captivated the world, the more artists from various genres wanted to work with him. Not because of Jungkook's popularity, but because of his legendary discipline and work ethic behind the stage. The collaborations that began to emerge after the 2026 recognition demonstrated that Jungkook was being accepted in a much larger arena than the industry he grew up in. He seamlessly crossed genre boundaries, blending pop, R&B, soul, dance, and even traditional elements in some of his performances. All of these transformations not only satisfied the public, but also demonstrated that Jungkook was never one to be stuck in a comfort zone. As the world continued to witness his achievements, many began to talk about something bigger, legacy. Not in the formal sense, but in the sense of the influence he would have on future generations. Jungkook didn't just pave the way, he set new standards that forced the industry to adapt. He introduced a more technically conscious training method, a more emotional stage presence, and a way of combining vocals and dance that was previously thought impossible without compromise. Vocal coaches began to use his style as a model for research. Choreographers began studying the way he combined movement dynamics with vocal stability. Jungkook's name began appearing not only in entertainment magazines, but in music journals and performing arts analysis.